A blogger that Gypsy Rose is currently suing did an interview with Tasha K and spilled quite a bit of tea. But before I get into that, if you guys don't know who this blogger is, her name is April Jones and she goes by Fancy. And she's a member of this, I think it's called the Good Wives Network. Fancy pretty much told Gypsy, look, give me all your medical records and all the information you have on you and your case, and we'll turn around and get a bag with all this information. We'll come out with a documentary, we'll come out with a book, all kinds of stuff. And she promised that she was going to compensate Gypsy handsomely. And Gypsy agreed. She signed a contract. She gave this lady all this information. And then she said she never made a single dime out of all this information this girl ended up putting out. And she said the last 2 years before she got out of prison, she had multiple different media outlets going to purchase her story, but she was unable to sell it because she was stuck in this contract that she wasn't benefiting from. And then after talking to this lady for 7 years, she started dropping all these articles talking about Gypsy, where she said she felt like Gypsy was a liar and a master manipulator, and she learned these behaviors from her mother. In those 7 years, Fancy was speaking to Gypsy. She had also spoke with Nick Godejohn and family members of the victim, Nick, and multiple other people who knew them. Gypsy was not liking what Fancy was saying about her, and then Fancy announced that she was in the process of working on a documentary entitled Gypsy Rose and Nick, America's Sweetheart Murderers, and it's supposed to be like this tell-all book talking about this 7-year journey she had talking to Gypsy. Once Gypsy got out of prison, she decided to sue Fancy for defamation, breach of contract, fraud, and unjust enrichment. And this blogger decided to come out and speak with Tasha K and do an interview that just came out. And in one of the clips I saw on Tasha's Instagram, she was telling Tasha that Gypsy Rose allegedly threatened her. And Gypsy said that the last person that got in her way is no longer here. And if that is true, then that just shows me that she has zero remorse for what she has done. And this blogger also was frustrated with the fact that Gypsy is trying to call her out for sharing some of her medical records and information. And she's like, I don't know why Gypsy's mad at me, because she's pretty much leaked her medical records to anybody out there who's willing to see it. TMZ, Lifetime, all sorts of other blogs. Those were just the 2 clips that I saw, but apparently they did like almost a 2-hour interview on Tasha K's website, Tasha K Live. I was going to watch it, but you have to subscribe and it's $12 a month. And I mean, I don't really be watching Tasha K like that, but if I get enough people who are interested and want to hear a recap on it, then I might consider subscribing. Like if you guys want to hear me do a recap on the full interview, let me know in the comments. And if I get at least like 25 people saying yes, then I'll just go ahead and watch it tomorrow and recap it, because just in the teasers I saw, it looked like it was going to be good. And now let's talk about the last episode of Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. We only have one more episode left. Okay, so it starts off with Gypsy and she's still over at her dad and stepmom's house, and it's the next morning and she's talking to Christy and Rod, and she tells them that her and Ryan really aren't on the best terms. And she said that Ryan sent this really out-of-pocket text message to her that really made her feel some type of way. And she showed her dad, and of course her dad was not happy when he read it, because here's Ryan saying, I really don't give a damn about your dad spending time with you, which is just so incredibly selfish. I know he said haha afterwards, but just because you try to say haha or lol and make it sound like a joke does not mean it's okay to say. But Ryan did come out and say on a live he did the other day, and he's like, you guys don't even know the full story. He's like, I was talking to Gypsy and she had just sent me a text message before that saying, oh, I'm so sad, I wish you were here laying next to me tonight. if you're trying to joke around, you don't need to bring her dad into it. Like, especially saying, I don't give a damn about your dad. It just sounds bad, even if you are trying to say you're joking. Next thing you know, we're catching up with Gypsy, and she's back at Ryan's apartment, and she looks absolutely devastated. And Ryan's like, what's wrong, baby? And she said, I had to just delete all my social media accounts. And Ryan was like, why? And she said that someone had reported to her PO in Missouri that Gypsy had said on social media that she feels that when Nick went to prison for unaliving her mother, she felt sad because she felt like she lost 2 people that night. I guess someone was trying to make it sound like she was like threatening Nick or something by saying that. And because of that, her PO said that it's in her best interest as she has no social media accounts right now. Ryan didn't understand. He's like, man, doesn't your PO understand that's how you make a living? He said, come on, baby, that's revenue. Why don't you wait till tomorrow, try to get the money out of your account first? Because she had like $6,000 on her TikTok, which Ryan claimed like once she did file for divorce, I guess Gypsy did an interview with TMZ and claimed that Ryan had $6,000 of her TikTok money because she put it in his account. And I guess Ryan admitted in his live the other day, he's like, yep, that's what that $6,000 was from when she suddenly deleted her account. So luckily they didn't lose it. But he said he had no idea that he had even received that money because he forgot about it after they divorced. But he said once he found out he had it, I guess him and Gypsy ended up contacting each other and settling it out. When Ryan said, baby, that's revenue, Gypsy was not trying to hear that, and she just threw her hands up in the air and was so frustrated. She's like, is that all you give a damn about is money? And he's like, no, I just want you to tell your PO this is how you make a living. He's been telling you to get a job. Well, this is your job. This is how you're supposed to pay the bills. And more than anything, I don't think Ryan was trying to say it that way. I just think he didn't want her to lose that $6,000 she had in her account and was just trying to point that out to her so she didn't just make an impulsive decision. But Ryan also has to understand that with Gypsy being on probation in 2 different states, she's belongs to both those states. She's property of the state, and what they say goes. Most of the time, they're not trying to hear your excuses. You have to follow what they say, and that's one thing I don't think Ryan's really understanding. He was the same way when the PO was trying to tell him, oh, you got to get back to the house. Like, I understand trying to at least get them to meet you halfway. It doesn't hurt to at least try, but at the end of the day, if they say delete it, you got to delete it. And even Gypsy was like, do you think that there's a price on my freedom? And Ryan was like, no, I just want you to have that money. And then later on, Ryan and Gypsy decided to go out for dinner. And while they're eating, Ryan decided to ask Gypsy if she wanted to get married again so they could have like an actual big wedding outside of prison. And Ryan said in a TikTok live that Lifetime was actually pushing for this. They wanted the season finale to end up being one big happy wedding. And Gypsy really wasn't feeling that idea. She said, do we really have to talk about this now in front of the cameras? And Ryan was confused because he's like, well, hell, you've been talking about how I jizzed inside you and how you had to take a plan B in front of the cameras, but now you don't want to talk about getting married. But I just feel like it's because she didn't want to get married and she didn't want to have to hurt his feelings like that in front of the camera. I think she's probably going to wake him up in the middle of the night like she did that time she told him that he still loved Ken and just be like, oh yeah, I don't want to get married. Ryan's not stupid. He knows with her not wanting to talk about it, he knows that she does not want to marry him. And I think he was worried, and now he's even more worried after hearing that. And he kept just trying to talk to Gypsy the whole time while she was eating. And when she wasn't responding because her mouth was full and she just didn't seem like she was in a good mood, he kept saying, yeah, okay, like kept trying to get her to talk when she clearly didn't want to. I was like, dude, just let her eat her freaking meal for once without having to have her talk every 5-10 seconds. I'm like this too. There's times where I'm tired, where I just want to sit, I don't want to say much. And she was making it so obvious and giving him all the signs that, she really didn't want to talk, but he just kept on pushing the envelope. They both end up leaving the restaurant. Neither one of them are really in a good mood at this point. And they get in the car, and Ryan's like, really, what is wrong with you? And she's like, look, I'm just in a mood right now. And even then, Ryan still wasn't taking the hint. He kept trying to talk to her. And all of a sudden, Gypsy was like, are you happy? And Ryan was like, yes, I'm happy. I got my wife. I got everything I wanted. And he said, what about you? Are you happy? And she didn't have anything to say, because you could tell she's not happy at all, and she just wants this relationship, this marriage, to be over with as soon as possible at this point. And she told Ryan straight up, I just feel like I would be happier somewhere else. And Ryan was like, okay, then just call Ken. Which is just pushing her even more away by saying things like that. Like, I could not deal with Ryan because he's just so condescending. And the things he says will just piss you off so much. And she started getting all teared up. And he's like, you're probably already talking to him anyways. But Gypsy swears up and down that she has not talked to Ken before this. And she was pretty much like letting him know she wasn't interested in being married with him no more, and she wanted to go stay with her stepmom and dad. And Ryan was shocked. He got outside the car and was smoking on his vape and crying, and he said, I just don't understand why she doesn't want to fight for our marriage. She's giving up so easily. And even he told her, like, look, don't make any rash decisions. Even when he said that, you could read it on Gypsy's face that she knew that she was making a rash decision and going solely off her emotions at that time. But there was nothing you could say to Gypsy at that time that was going to change her mind, that she wanted out that marriage and she wanted to be with Ken as soon as possible. And Ryan was having a hard time accepting that, and he said that it really hurts him to this day knowing that she did not give him a chance to try to make things better, because usually when you do the vows, it's till death do us part, through sickness and health, and you're supposed to work through things instead of just giving up the first time things get hard. But at the same time, I get it, because he was a lot to deal with. And then Gypsy and Ryan went back to the apartment. And I guess when Ryan went back to work, she ended up packing a few bags, calling her stepmom, and she ended up leaving. And she said that she wasn't going to divorce Ryan at this time. She was just going to leave for a few weeks so she can figure out how it is being away from him and just have little breaks, so she can figure out if she wants to move away for good or if she wants to go back. She ends up leaving. And a few weeks later, we catch up with Ryan, and he's crying tears. And he's really hurt because he is scared that Gypsy's not going to come back. He thought that she was just going to leave for a day or two and be like, you know what, this is stupid, I miss my husband, and go back. But Ryan claims he hasn't heard from Gypsy at all in 2 weeks and is starting to feel like she's done with him. And then next thing you know, we see Gypsy and her stepmom Christy pull up to Ryan's apartment, and they say a little prayer outside the apartment, and they go inside. And luckily Ryan wasn't there at the time. I think he was at work or probably running errands. But they rush in there and they start packing all these bags to try to get as much stuff as possible. And Gypsy starts going through the clothing closet that she has, and I noticed that she had some baby clothes in there, which was interesting because this was before she was pregnant. But now it kind of makes a little bit more sense why Ryan was, trying to get her pregnant, because he probably thought she wanted a baby ASAP, buying all these baby clothes. I just could not believe she let Pixie, after she fought so hard to get that dog, literally a month later, she's leaving the dog behind. But maybe it was best off she left the dog there, because like in the past when her and Nick committed that crime, after they left her mother's house, she ended up taking her gerbils with her, and then she was like, okay, this is too much to transport them with her, and she ended up letting her gerbils loose and just let them go outside to defend for themselves. And apparently when her and Nick made this crime, the two cats that Dee Dee had, they just let those cats loose outside, and the cats weren't found until days after Dee Dee's dead body was finally found. And once they did find the cats, one of them was all right, had a good temperament, and they took it to the shelter and it got adopted within days. But the other cat, this cat that we see here, they believe this cat was extremely traumatized. The cat was very skittish, would not interact with anybody, and just sat in this corner in its small cage right in front of its water bowl, and it sat in that same spot for weeks and just refused to move and just like blankly stared at the wall of the little cage it was in. And I feel like that cat probably seen some things being in that house of horrors, and it probably wasn't the same after that. Due to this cat's behavior, they were really having a hard time finding anybody willing to adopt this cat. And I was looking up articles, and all the articles were saying they were trying to look for someone to adopt it. I don't know if they ever did in time before they had to put the cat down, but it definitely had a hard time once it came to the shelter from Dee Dee's. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. Like I said, the next week is the season finale, and it looks like it's going to be eventful. We're going to see Ryan and Gypsy say their final goodbyes. I'm not sure if they're going to say goodbyes face to face, but Ryan said that next week we'll see him pretty much end his storyline for the season. People were asking him if there's going to be a season 2, and he's like, look, I don't know, because they pretty much ended my storyline in the season finale and wrap things up. So even if they are going to have a season 2, it's not like they're going to invite me, and then we're going to see Ken and Gypsy together, and then I guess we're going to find out about her pregnancy. So, which she didn't get pregnant till the end of April, she claims, and it had to be at least a month after that before she found out she was pregnant. So what we're about to see next week is pretty up to date from only like a few months ago. But that is it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. What have you guys thought about this season of Gypsy Rose so far? Do you guys think they should make a season 2? Overall, I've been pretty impressed. This has been a juicy season, but here's the thing. I don't know if season 2 would be able to carry the same amount of drama with her and Ken, because it seems like they don't have as much drama compared to her marriage with Ryan, because it gave us a lot to watch because their marriage was literally falling apart right in front of our eyes. But it just seems like there hasn't been as much stuff with Gypsy since she's left Ryan. I mean, outside of finding out she's pregnant and that she's suing this blogger. And don't forget, if you want to see me recap that interview of Tasha K and that blogger that Gypsy's suing, let me know in the comments below. If I get enough yeses, then I'll recap that tomorrow. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.